Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about Starfield Direct and some impressions I got from it. But understand, I can't possibly cover every area in this video because it's so much going on. And speaking as a modder and my expectations on what I previously talked about in the game and what we know now, this is just going to have to be an overview. But from my perspective, I like to see how the various features create gameplay. That's going to be the theme of this particular video. Which features create gameplay? And to give you an example first, crafting. Crafting allows you to craft resources to make modules, for your bases, or modules for your weapons, or even weapons, or anything, in fact, or your industry. That means you're going to need a trading ship. That means you need to upgrade to one, or buy one, or capture one. So these interlink with the piracy gameplay or the trading gameplay, whichever way you want to go. And as Bethesda said, if you actually get a bug in one part of that, the whole set of the gameplay collapses. It kind of cascades the bug. So if you get the crafting element wrong, or you get the resource gathering wrong, everything else fails to work as well, because you need that to do the rest. So they were getting the bugs, fixed, and getting everything working was important. That's why we had the delays. But that introduces a whole section of gameplay just from the crafting elements, and that's what I like to look for. This kind of interaction. Now, I'd just like to apologise if you hear any noises behind, because it's the equivalent of tanks in the building site running back and forth, making noises all day, every day for the last 2 years. And I'm not getting any peace from them, so excuse me if you hear the rattling. That's them. It's literally right outside my window, well, less than 50 yards away. So anyway, on with the show. The interface itself has to be basic to allow more resources to be dedicated to the game. That's why it isn't flashy. In the past, flashy interfaces have caused problems in the games because they've been so jazzy. Second you hit load and your resource goes up, the resources are taken away from the game and it causes a crash or memory leaks and things like that. Better to have low resource menus and just have resources dedicated to where you want them. That way it runs better on consoles, it runs better on PCs. The other thing is 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second. Let's just get that out of the way. On the PC, you get what you pay for. If you buy low-end graphics cards, you're going to get low-end graphics card performance. On consoles, you get what you pay for. If you want decent performance, buy a PC with some decent hardware. If you just want to play the game, 30 frames per second is quite good for a console. So let's understand that you get what you pay for. You can't expect top-end performance on a low-end gaming machine. It's not the way life works. You want the performance, you've got to get the PC. I'm not trying to upset anybody, it's just the way it is, right? I've got a middle-of-the-road graphics card, I accept I get middle-of-the-road performance. Although, to be honest, with this graphics card, it's been running really well on top-end stats, so no problems. Plus, if you look at Skyrim, it's a 60 frames per second game on the PC. It has low voltage, low heat, and a stable 60 frames per second. So that means it's never going to overheat in the hot summer weather like some games do. Your system's going to be fairly safe. When they reduce down to 30 frames per second, they're also reducing the temperature of the hardware when running the game. Again, it's saving your hardware from wearing out a bit prematurely. So it's all a good thing, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. And if you were actually playing a shoot 'em up game and it gets 60 frames per second, then it drops down to 20, you're going to feel it. But if it stays at 30, you get used to 30 and it's all right. So that's another reason. Now, the navigation side of things. Now, on the navigation side, some games just stick up the map and you are here. And then if you blink or the map moves, you think, I've lost myself, where am I? They've got around that. There's the planet, there's the solar system, there's the galaxy. They literally like zoom out between the levels. So you can navigate much more easily. I suspect that the gameplay in space is all in the solar systems and not in between. Although I think you might get intercepted jumping between things, but it'd be unlikely. So when you get to a solar system, you see a derelict ship. I think that is where the gameplay comes in space, when you go from system to system. And you get to that system and it loads it in. The other good thing about the system, and I'm going to have to make a complete new video about this, is what we were talking about, planet generation, it appears we were closer than I was expecting, closer than I was expecting to be in the way it actually works. In Oblivion, they had a kind of like, in all of their games, not just Oblivion, generates the square you're in, and the square immediately to the side, above and below, right? So you look forward, you can see the next square, and the next square, and the next square. Then you move into that, it loads the next one up. That's how the gameplay works when you're walking through it. In real time, the maps, everything's already pre-generated on the world, all the bases, everything. As soon as you load the game up and you're at the menu and you go to start a new game, the world's already loaded from your hard drive. It's pre-generated. It only loads it in as you move forward, and at that point, the only thing that's random is the level list stuff. Like if you want creatures to spawn, they'll have a level list of creatures based on the level of the player, and they'll go, well, we'll load one of them in, right? And then that's how it works. Well, in Starfield, what they've done is they generate the planet as you enter the system. Then they generate all the terrain and everything else at the same time. When you go down the planet, they start generating what's on the planet. So every time you go there, it's a very different planet. Right, your mate go to the same planet is a very different experience. So the level list now includes bases, like I said, and things like that. So that's going to be different. You're going to get a different planet, different encounters, which is a really exciting prospect. And it's taking their engine design to the next level. It's one of the differences between Skyrim and Starfield. And I think it's going to be a big difference. It's going to be one of the key features of this game. And it means these overhauls, they're going to be the big mods to have in Starfield, because if they all run off level lists, overhauls edit level lists, they'll be able to make these encounters and these worlds much more fun. So if you're a mod user, keep an eye out for the overhauls, because they're going to be the biggies, the big guys in this particular game, because they're going to influence all of the worlds all at the same time from a single mod. So yeah, very exciting if you like mods. Anyhow, I'll be going into a deep dive on that in the future, talking about it like I did in previous videos. But for now, you get the idea. You've got like inner core planets as well. I think they're pretty much pre-generated. I wouldn't expect them to be designed the same way as the outer planets. They probably just thought, well, we want these to be a certain way, so we'll generate these, put all the places we need to be on the planets and go from there. Like you got Aquila City and New Atlantis. I think they'd be pre-generated, so we won't see any changes there. And the standard player styles are all there as well. So what we wanted to see, what we enjoyed from previous games is all there. That's good, that's really good. I think that was one of the worries, was how do you make a guy with a laser gun sound interesting when everybody who's ever made a space game has completely failed to do that. And I think, they managed to get it right, but I can see ID Soft's fingerprints all over it. ID Soft are the masters of shooters. You see the shooting in this game now compared to what it was like last year. It's massively improved. It's really fluid. The 60 frames per second and 30 frames per second are going to play a big heavy part in that. And the 60 frames and 30 frames will limit the heat generation as well. So you'll be able to play this during the hot summer months with no issues whatsoever. Whereas if you try to play in Unreal's engine or some of the other things, or Unity, it does get a little bit hot sometimes. So yeah, you're going to be enjoying this during the hot summer months with your cold drink and stuff, and you're not going to have any worries about overheating and your hardware burning out. But the shooting thing, the mods, weapon mods, again links back to the trading aspect and crafting and stuff. ID Soft meets Bethesda right there. Bethesda's crafting, ID Soft shooting. You can see when you're shooting individual areas on a ship, or you hit a backpack and the black guy shoots off into space and blows up. This is ID Soft, right? They bang, 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 shooting things, that's ID Soft, right? So, or as Americans would say, id. Sounds a very strange way of saying it if you ask me. But ID Soft, right? So, I'm glad both of them are under the same roof at the moment, Microsoft, because it allows these collaborations to influence each other's games. I dare say it went the other way when ID Soft needed a little bit of an RPG element, because they have tried RPGs in the past, ID Soft, and it hasn't quite worked. It always was a shooter in the end. Ships are also behaving more like player characters. You add in crews and companions, and you can change the performance of your ship based on the skills that they bring in. Same with your outposts. That's a quite good thing. No other space game has done that, to my knowledge. You know, they have upgrades and new ships, yeah, but this is a whole new level for Bethesda. They've kind of gone down this road where I think, well, we'll treat the ship as a character almost, and I like that, because if you think about it, RPGs. You know, it's all about character building. You come back to it to build a new character. Well, if your ship's also a character, then you're doubling down on that gameplay. You and your ship can be built in different ways. Take different companions, put different upgrades, turn it into a freighter, turn it into a fighter, turn it into an exploration vessel, build a Death Star. You know, you've got a lot of choices. And they've made mechs and other things and spiders and, you know, all kinds of ships. I'm thinking, you know, I mean, this is a really strong vibe I'm getting from it all. But you get out into space, you get away from, you know, Ikea City and New Atlantis, and you're heading into the deep space when you eventually get your engines upgraded big enough so you can take you out there. And suddenly I'm thinking Firefly. When you get to those free world or free star collectives, I'm thinking Firefly. I'm almost thinking I want to design, you know, Serenity and have that in the game. Somebody will do it. Somebody will do it. But that's what I'm thinking, Serenity in the game, bang. You know, so just head out there, you know. But anyway, I'm going to love that if that's the case, though, because it has that kind of grungy feel about it. There's also a player home situation. We think we're right. The spaceship is going to be the primary player home, and how you design it's going to be up to you. But the outposts are also going to be served as player homes. But I don't think you can spend a lot of time there. Basically, resource gathering, I think, to help you build stuff, you know, and make money, so you can upgrade your ship even bigger. The idea that you could have battleships in space that are derelicts and go and search them and, you know, just try and gather stuff, resources. That's an old storyline going back a long way that I've always loved. The derelict battleship from past empires that have fallen, that have been forgotten and drifting in space for thousands of years. Then you find it. A legendary ship had finally been found, like finding the Titanic, and you get on board. I think that would be a killer storyline, that would be. If Bethesda haven't already done it, I think they've missed the boat there. But yeah. Anyway, it says fighting and stuff, you know, space fight, all the fights that you get. I mean, they're talking about assigning power to subsystems, you know, engines, shields, weapons, that kind of thing. That's a great system. I mean, it might be a bit fiddly. I hope it's key-based, where you press a key to increase it in various areas. That'd be easier. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Because, again, you might decide speed is the way to go. Because combat boils down to strength of weapons, shields, and speed. Speed, if you have fast ship, you don't need very strong shields because you're harder to hit. If you've got strong weapons, you don't necessarily need speed, so you just need shields. So you, depending on your style of game, you could be the tank that takes a battering but blows things away as soon as you hit them. Or you can be the gnat that nibbles away at their shields but is impossible to hit. So that there is added a whole new level. It's something you don't see players being given the choice in games. You've either got to change your ship or you don't do it. Bethesda have taken this to the next level again. So this is a really good aspect. It adds gameplay. And Bethesda have said all these features mesh together to create the game, and they've been really strongly trying to hammer that point home. And I understand it. That gameplay element there and the combat alone shows they've thought about it and made that into like a mini game. So space combat is going to be very different from everything else. And that somebody said vehicles. I've seen no mention of vehicles. But if you think about it, Bethesda's games don't usually support vehicles anyway. But that if they're supporting like space flight now, then vehicles are just around the corner, aren't they, if you think about it. Anyway, the systems, you know, I've got notes here, by the way. The lighting calculated in real time, that's another thing. If you've got lighting calculated in real time, or lighting, and you've got to ask yourself, is this an NVIDIA card thing? Or is this part of their own engine? Because what normally happens is somebody will come out with a card and say, we've got new dynamic lighting on our card and it shows in our special BBS chip. right? And you think, oh, jolly good, I think I'll go and buy that. And next thing you know, somebody's done it in their game without any chips. It's working in the software because graphics cards have got so fast they can now calculate it without any special support. DirectX was always the way this worked. It kind of added the support on the software side. So you had either hardware support or DirectX, which is software support. And it's entirely possible Bethesda have done their own support on the software itself and don't use any special hardware. If they did use hardware, I'd guess their games might not be working in 10 years' time. But if they do it themselves, and they know this because they've got the experience, their games will continue to work in 10 years' time because their hardware, well, they're not the hardware, the software is doing all the work. They can patch that. What else we've got? Crafting and research facilities on the bases and stuff like that. I mean, from what I've seen, No Man's Sky, you scan all the terrain and the flora and the animals and all the other stuff. They've done that in this. Only it's a similar kind of No Man's Sky. What they've done is borrowed all the ideas from all the games that made the space games about that level. And then they've taken it further. So they're just looking down on all the things that came before it. One of the things that worried me was if they're going to take the gameplay that we all know and love from other games and just copy it, then we'll just have a copy of all the other games combined, and it won't be much fun if you've already played those games to death. But they've not only copied it, they've taken ideas to the next level as well, which means they're so far ahead of the competition as to set a new standard in these kind of games, and not just in one area. There's so much going on that we've now had a new standard that is 4 or 5 times the magnitude of anything that came before it. But I would warn you though, 1,000 planets with say 5 planets per system isn't as big as you might think. But when you're looking at the star map, it isn't going to be as big as you might think. But on the other hand, right, once you deep dive onto a solar system and you start exploring it, that's where your hours and gameplay will go. Because I think it is the solar system that's going to be the core gameplay for space. You go from one solar system to another when you arrive. Bad guys are there, derelicts are there, animals are there, resources are there, whatever it is. Also, with the core planets being pre-generated, I think, because I think they will be pre-generated, and the outer it's Free Star Collective, I think it is, they're there as well, giving that kind of serenity, thing effect, Firefly. Says, and then outside of that, they're generated. You'd be able to think, well, whilst you're in the core, you'll get an expected kind of gameplay. In freelance, it'll get a little, or the Free Star Collective, it'll get a little bit unpredictable. And outside, it's just random. It's completely random. You won't have a clue what you're coming up against. They'll just know you're going to get certain pirate things on certain planets. And if they said if you take the perks and stuff like that, it changes it. For instance, a religion. If you join a religion, then anybody in that religion might not attack you. That kind of thing. So that will change the gameplay once you get out in space. But my understanding is you've got to update. You've got to upgrade your engine to travel further. So I think it was only after you upgrade your engine you'll actually be able to get to those places and actually start experiencing all of that. And I think that'll be the race players have, is to get out there into the depths, away from the core systems and start exploring. And that's when things will start getting more interesting, I think. But yeah, there's lots of things. The ballistic side as well. This is another thing. Ballistics. You fire a weapon in space, you fly backwards. You fire a laser in space, you don't. So you know what weapon people are going to be carrying in space in low gravity. It's going to be lasers. And when they're on the planet, they're going to be carrying ballistic weapons. So before you leave your ship, you're going to be changing your weapons for the environment you're in. That's another game changer. That's another way. It's another way their design decisions have changed the way you're going to play the game. Because you're going to be conscious of what kind of planet you're on. You might even step off the ship, do a little jump, see if it's low gravity, and then nip inside and change your weapons if it is. But the booster packs, that's going to be like the grappling hook in Just Cause 2 and things like that. But also, if you know, Just Cause kind of like flops a bit when it got rid of grenades, and because explosions are a big thing. And the ID soft influence, and this means their weapons are many and varied with upgrades and all kinds of stuff. So from a weapons perspective, you could have an entire gameplay just manufacturing cool weapons that do certain jobs. I'm assuming that some of the upgrades and add-ons for weapons will be customizable, to the point where you can design your own weapon and not just make it look different. I'm assuming that. It sounds like that. But it'd probably be skill-based as well. All the skills, they've taken a bit of a back seat in the presentation, but I think we can assume it's going to be along the lines of Elder Scrolls and Fallout and everything else. Because so far, what they've talked about is Elder Scrolls Fallout gameplay in space, and then they bolted this on. This particular aspect of gameplay, space flight. Now, just so people understand, the gameplay itself, it'll be the same as what we're used to, but with the new aspects and new elements to it. The engine, that's where it's all changed. Being able to generate planets as you approach, just treating them like a level list. Instead of having them pre-generated, which is what they previously had to do, they're generating the planets as you approach now. That's a new feature. That's an advancement in the game engine that we've been seeing. I hope they rename the game engine, because that is a big enough change for it to justify a rename just on its own. So you approach a planet, it generates a planet. You land up on it, generates your encounters, your places to visit, things like that. Then it stays like that until, forever. Then you load up, start a new character, you come back, that changes again. These are new features. These are exciting elements to the Starfield game. Overall, I would say Starfield has made so many huge changes that, to the way space games work, as it's going to be a trend setter for decades to come. We're going to see a lot of copycat games coming out just like it. And whilst the graphics look a little bit dated to me, I think that's necessary to keep the frame rates up and the gameplay at a standard that Bethesda like to see. So if you want high graphics and things like that, you're going to need a powerful PC. And if you've got a powerful PC, then yeah, I can understand why you might want that. But most of us don't. We want to be able to play it smoothly. And this, I think, is going to work. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Expect some deep dives into various elements that I found rather cool. Go into a lot more detail on them. And the gameplay, how these features generate gameplay, will still be a topic in the other videos. I hope you understand where I'm going from this video if you watched it all the way through. And if you're going to buy Starfield, yeah, get excited. See you in the next one.